Good evening to all. What is going on with my video here? What in the world? What in the world is going on? Let's try this again. Okay, no idea why the video is so small. Okay, so never had that issue before. What a way to start the men's basketball season. This is Iowa Postgame with From the Hawkeye of the Storm. We are talking about Iowa's 118-72 victory over Truman State. And trying to figure out why my video, it looks like, what in the world? Looks like one of those old videos on VHS. What is going on? I don't know what to say here, folks. This is the strangest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Okay. I don't have an explanation. The good news is we've got the call-in line fixed, I think, for the third straight time. We've got that fixed here. But again, why my picture is so small, I don't have an answer. I just simply don't. What we'll try to do here is we'll try our best with what we've got. We've got Drill MVP who's been waiting here on hold, and let's go ahead and add Drill MVP to the mix. Drill MVP, it's been a long time, buddy. Where you been?
Well, I didn't want to call into the Iowa football shows just because you can only say the same thing over and over and over again. And you can only hear the same conversations over and over and over again before you kind of just tune it out. I mean, with Iowa football, their offense is horrible. Their defense is great. Their special teams is really, really good. And they'll probably go 6-6 or 5-7, which is a shame. So I've been watching your shows. I've been hitting the like button, but every game is basically the same game, regardless of who they play. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
Drill MVP, can you tell me why does my video look weird to you?
Yeah, you look like you're covering 2/3 of the screen.
What's going? I don't know how to handle this. I really don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's fine.
Anyways, yeah, you're right about football. I'm assuming Drill MVP, you are, and for anybody who doesn't know you, because we've had a lot of subscribers, a lot of listeners, I hope. I think that's safe to say since you really been part of the show. For anybody that doesn't know, Drill MVP is one of our loyal callers during basketball season. And I think it's safe to say, Drill MVP, that you did not get BTN Plus to watch Iowa beat up on Truman State this evening.
That is correct. I did not see a single second of the game, unfortunately. I will be watching Iowa basketball when they play Seton Hall, November 16th. I will be watching that game. That is going to be a good out-of-conference game.
Absolutely.
And, Corey, these type of games are, in my opinion, just to kind of get your legs under you. You don't hope for any injuries to take place, but what can you take away from a game where you're clearly playing an inferior opponent?
Well, that's a great question. We don't have Gary Close on with us tonight. He'll be joining us in the coming days for the regular season. But yeah, what I look for, I'll tell you what I look for, drill MVP in these games. I look first of all for freshman production. I look for guys who need to develop. I mean, we look at the we're going to talk about the big man for Iowa or the lack thereof. They don't really have a big man right now, which is sad when you think about the fact that they've got 2 7-footers on the bench who have they've been here combined 3 years, and one game is one game. It does not appear like either one of those guys has taken a huge leap. So those are the types of things I look for. Again, freshmen, I look for guys that you obviously need to take a step developmental wise. And I thought we saw some good things out of the freshmen tonight. I thought Josh Dix, he made a couple threes late. He looks comfortable. His big question mark was his health with the fracture in his leg in high school, his senior year of high school. And then DeSante Bowen had a nice feed to, was it Sanford for a bucket late? Their first game, I don't really learn much of anything else, though. Defensively, yeah, they gave up 72. I thought Truman State actually made some tough shots early. But Drill MVP, you're probably going to, I'm guessing in this phone call, you're going to bring up what happened earlier. Was it today or yesterday with Louisville? Is my guess.
Oh, absolutely, Corey. Absolutely. Shout out to Louisville. Shout out to Kenny Payne losing by 10 to a Division II school. Shout out to them.
Well, for the record, Iowa did lose to a Division II school. How many years ago was that? Like 6 years ago in the exhibition game against Augustana, who at the time was one of the best Division II teams in the country. So, and that was actually a pretty good Iowa team. That was I want to say that was one of the Jared Uthoff teams. So, no, I don't know what happened in that Louisville game. I'm sure you didn't watch it either, Drill MVP, but yeah, that's
No, I didn't watch a single second of it, but I read an article and saw the record of the team they were playing was 10-18 last season. So they weren't exactly lighting the world on fire even in Division II basketball.
My guess is that Louisville did not show up for the game, but that's a concern. If I'm a Louisville fan, I'm thinking, my goodness, we've been off for 7 months. What have we been doing as far as we're not ready for the season? Because to me, if you don't show up for an exhibition game, like it's one thing to get beat, and I'm not excusing Iowa losing to Augustana all those years ago, but it's one thing to show up and to play a really good Division II team. And hey, it happens. I mean, we've seen FCS teams beat FBS teams, Drill MVP.
Yeah, I know, but Louisville's got a brand new head coach. You think for the first game he's ever a part of, a brand new era, you would want to put, maybe not your best foot forward because of the opponent you're playing, but at least a good quality showing out there for the fans. Because this is the first time in a few years I feel like Louisville fans have something to look forward to. And it's just kind of a shame because they were once a great program, and now I don't think they're just a program. Whereas Louisville historically has been an elite program in basketball. So it's just kind of a shame to see them go the way they have.
Lost to? Was it John Rise?
I don't know, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I'll say this, Drill MVP, Truman State was, they were hanging in there early. So, no, overall, few takeaways. I thought Perkins we'll get to more of this once we get off this call, but Rebraca looked good. Perkins was aggressive defensively, which is what you expect. He looks like he's developed his offensive game, made 1 or 2 threes. Didn't learn a whole lot about the freshman. Was disappointed with what I saw from Mulvey and Agundale, albeit in just one game. Then Connor making his 3-pointers is a good sign moving forward because they need him to produce from outside. They need him to be a threat.
Yeah, it looked like the team they played was Lanier Ryan or something like that. I don't know. But Corey, there is another side of basketball, and that is the elite, I'm going to call them elite women's basketball team that Iowa has. I'm not sure if you've seen the AP rankings for the women, but they are currently the number 4 team in the country. I think they deserve some props for the heavy preseason expectation. They're ahead of UConn, Tennessee, Louisville. They're just behind South Carolina, Stanford, and Texas. So, Corey, I know the women don't get a lot of respect, but they're a heck of a team, and I think they can make a legit Final Four run this year. What do you think about them?
I'll be honest, I didn't hear a word you just said because I just fixed my picture.
Okay, I was talking about giving the Iowa women's team some credit. They're number 4 in the country in the AP preseason poll. They're behind South Carolina, Stanford, and Texas, and ahead of Tennessee, UConn, Louisville. Those are all historic, those are really good elite programs that they're around. What do you think about Iowa, and can they make a Final Four run this year?
Oh, I mean, certainly, I think your preseason rank number 4. Somebody thinks you can. It's hard for me, as you know, the uh, difference between the top couple of teams in women's basketball is usually so drastic. Um, I wish there was more parity at the top. Um, Athletically, I think Iowa would have gotten beat. I mean, we saw Creighton come into Iowa City and beat Iowa State last year in the tournament, and then get absolutely manhandled or woman handled by South Carolina in the tournament. So um, I hope that's the case. I don't know enough about those teams at the top, Drill MVP, besides the fact that South Carolina is what South Carolina is with Aaliyah Boston. So I hope that's the case. But no, they've got great pieces, and they returned basically everybody. Liked what I saw to Hannah Stolke the other night, but again, they played Nebraska Kearney, so I'll withhold my judgments. I'm not big into preseason rankings, but there's a reason why they're ranked that high, because they return almost everybody and add a good freshman or two that I think can help them in various ways. Stolke's an athletic big, runs like a deer. Taylor McCabe can shoot the lights out. They add Molly Davis from the portal, so no, they're gonna have a shot. But you can't get to the final. It's like the men. You can't get to the Final Four until you get the Sweet 16. So last year they fell short of that. Both
Yeah,
teams did.
I know, Corey. As a Kentucky fan, trust me, I never am going to count out another basketball team, regardless of how big or small they are, regardless of a mascot I've never heard of. Shout out to St. Peter's, by the way, Corey. I'm sure a completely unrelated note. Shout out to St. Peter's. Uh, yeah, it's sad for the women because South Carolina is probably going to win the title and go undefeated since they got Aaliyah Boston. But for Iowa having Caitlin Clark, a generational type player, it's good for them and good for the sport. I think that she's doing so well. But Corey, first game of the season, congrats on the win, even though it doesn't count, but still a win. You got Bethune-Cookman November 7th on a Monday. You got any thoughts about the game coming up? I know you've done a deep dive into Bethune-Cookman. I know you have.
I did do a deep dive into Bethune. Are you being sarcastic?
I kind of was. I was at
Shame
the
on you.
beginning, but then I realized who I'm
Shame
talking.
on you. No, total shame on you.
Yeah, I know.
Because I did do a deep dive into Bethune, and let me tell you this. Let me just grab this before we move on to our next caller. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to know in about 10 seconds. Everything you need to know about
this is a good time to hit the like and subscribe button because this is good content.
Hit that like and subscribe button, folks. Where is this information I've got on? Oh my goodness, that's loud. Caller, I'm putting you on hold. All right, we put him on hold. As it relates to Bethune, where is this? Give me just a second. I'm going to lose any viewers because I'm stalling here, but I promise I'm going to find this.
You're fine. I'll run down their schedule. Iowa's got Bethune-Cookman, then they got North Carolina A&T. Then they got their first real test, I would call it, at Seton Hall. That should be a close game. That should be a competitive game. And then they got Omaha. Then they play Clemson. Clemson is a Power 5 team. They're not that good in basketball usually, so Iowa should win. Georgia Tech the same way. Then they get Duke. Unfortunately for Iowa, I think Duke's at a completely different level than Iowa, so that's probably going to be their first loss. And then Iowa State before they get into the Big Ten conference play with Wisconsin. And then their last two non-conference games is Southeastern Missouri State and Eastern Illinois. Why they scheduled those games after Wisconsin, I do not know. But that's their non-conference schedule breakdown. The only game I could see being they lose is Duke. Every other game they have a legitimate shot to win. So if they
only you're saying right. Let me just say you're just saying right now as a Kentucky fan they're not winning against Duke. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Yeah,
You never
I
know in
listen.
those games. You never know in those neutral site games. Let me tell you everything you need to know about Bethune-Cookman, Drill MVP. Last year they finished 10th in the SWAC. Their final net was 337. Their final KenPom was 333. But they do return their top 3 leading scorers, including Joe French, who withdrew from the NBA draft after averaging 15.8 points per game. You could say, well, that's a good thing, or you could say it's a bad thing since they finished 337 in the net. There you go. There's your deep dive into Bethune.
Well, thanks for the deep dive in Bethune-Cookman. I think I'm going to take Iowa to win by at least 25 points. What do you think about that?
I'll take that. Joe French, though, I've done some deep diving into him because I'm thinking, how did a guy from Bethune even think he was good enough to be in the NBA? He's a good player. They just don't have much around him. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how I'm assuming it'll be Tony Perkins matching up with him. But no, I'd take Iowa. I'd take Iowa by, probably 25 or 30.
And would you agree with my basic assessment of the non-conference schedule that they should, or at least 50-50 in every game except for the Duke game?
Seton Hall's good. TCU, they're probably going to get TCU in that tournament down there in Florida, Drill MVP. So that's not on the schedule right now. They're going to play either Cal or TCU. And as you know, TCU, remember people laughed at me? You'll remember this. People laughed at me when I picked TCU over Arizona in the second round of the tournament last year. And had it not been for the Zebras, they would have been a Sweet 16 team. So TCU is going to be a tough out. But yeah, Iowa's got a shot to win a lot of games, but they've got a much tougher schedule. Georgia Tech is the one game I wish they could have scheduled a better ACC opponent for that challenge. But other than that, they've got some tough ones. But you're right. I wouldn't count Duke as an automatic loss because, again, neutral site game. I know Duke, they got a ton of NBA guys every year, but they also have a ton of turnover every year, and that's a game in early December, late November. So
it's December 6th. The game with Duke is, and I wouldn't be upset if Duke lost. If Duke loses every game for the rest of history, I wouldn't be upset with that, Corey. But I would say Duke is favored at the moment. How about that?
I'll take that.
Yeah. Good luck for the season. Hopefully you guys can make it to the Sweet 16, and who knows, you guys can defend your Big Ten title.
I just want to know that you're going to be here throughout the season chatting with us, Drill MVP.
Corey, I called the night Kentucky lost to St. Peter's.
I know you did.
Yeah, if I can call during that night with probably the most humiliating defeat in Kentucky history.
I knew you were still alive because I know you call Mark Rogers' show, but appreciate you calling in, Drill MVP, and we'll talk to you probably after the game on next Monday.
Absolutely. See you then.
Thank you, sir. All right. Rolling along here with the calls. Let's bring in Tony, who's on the line. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? I'll first start off with the obligatory. We got to like and share this. Keep it going. I love it. I want to give you some credit. I pull up. I'm a Ken Pob subscriber, and the line for Bethune-Cookman, he has Iowa winning by 26. So you guys are pretty good with your numbers there.
Well, that was all MVP. I just agreed with him. So,
and then for the Duke game, he has Iowa losing by 2. So it might be a little closer than.
That's what I said. When he said that's the going game, he doesn't give Iowa much of a chance. And I've seen too many of those games where, a team like Duke who has a ton of turnover, it just takes a while for those teams to click at times early. And, Madison Square Garden, I don't know. I'm sure Duke will have more. There'll be more Duke fans there, but Iowa's also played. I don't know how many of these guys have played in MSG. I know Connor has. Some of the older guys have because they played in the that tournament there. Was it? I think they played Oregon. They played Oregon and UConn in the 2K Classic. Was that the event was? One of those tournaments. But anyways, they've been out there. So no, I wouldn't count Iowa out by any means.
I had a few notes. I was watching the game. I actually did tune in and watch the game. Settle has made a comment that Fran now 7 of the last 9 years has had a first teamer in the Big Ten. That's very impressive. Looking back on his resume, that some we do the recent memory of the 2 Garza years and the 1 Keegan year, but 4 more years out of those last 9, he's had a first teamer. I also did love Settles being able to be a homer because this wasn't a national broadcast. And hearing him go ballistic when Kingsbury hit those threes, that was just awesome. I lived for that.
It is sort of funny though when he's on these BTN calls. Anyways, not talking about this game tonight on BTN Plus, but any of the BTN games because, like, I get it. Like, the Iowa played a game against Virginia last year, and who's the guy that used to play for Virginia that was on the call for ESPN? I mean, even ESPN.
Oh
doesn't.
yeah.
His last name's Alexander. First name I can't think of. But my point is, yeah, I mean, there was no hiding his homerism tonight. It was
No.
nice to see. I mean, Carter Kingsbury's got a nice stroke. We didn't see that much last year. But I do think that's one other thing, and I know we're reading. We can't read much into anything from this game, frankly. But when you see a guy in his stroke, like Connor's shot, I mean, look better tonight than it has. And frankly, I mean, a guy like Carter Kingsbury, we saw Austin Ash at times when Iowa was dealing with injuries come in and give them spot minutes. It looks like Eldridge looked good. Kingsbury looked good. We didn't see Nimmers tonight, who I don't think dressed. It looks like maybe they've got it. I'm sure they probably have a guy out of those three. I'm guessing Fran has one of those guys who he's confident in turning to if necessary. I don't think it's going to be necessary because they're pretty deep anyways, but it's good to see those young guys get some time, and that's what happens when you're up 40 late in the game.
I had a few notes on some of the players. Like first, like you mentioned Connor and the ability to hit those outside shots, especially with him. Like something to add on to with that is if he's able to hit those outside shots like with that high a percentage, his basketball IQ is through the roof. And he's gonna there'll be people open underneath the hoop, or even for better, higher percentage shots than him hitting the three at the clip he did tonight. And I think that's just going to open up so much more for the offense because this is what first off season he's fully concentrated on basketball, and that he's been healthy, right?
Right. I think that honestly, I know I'm not taking anything away from the sacrifice that is required to play baseball as well and to be a part of the baseball team. Certainly, that's affected things, Tony. But I think the bigger thing is his health. And I mean, he was dealing with some major hip issues after that tournament in 2021, the Oregon loss. Am I saying that right? 2021, yeah. So, yeah, to have him back healthy now, and you're right about his basketball. We already know his basketball IQ is out the roof. We saw moments last year. I mean, I think the Penn State game on the road where he got hot from three. The key is consistency. So we've seen him do what he did tonight. It's a good sign, but we've seen him do this before. Now he's got to string those games together. Can he be consistent from outside? Jess Settles did mention something, and Jess Settles should know what a good jump shot looks like because he played with some of the best jump shooters at Iowa in Iowa history. Chris Kingsbury's a good example of that. But he did say that it looked like Connor's stroke had changed a bit. Now, I'm no shooting coach, but having Matt Gatens on the roster, I'm not going to say that is the end-all, be-all, but I've mentioned that. That can't hurt guys like Tony, guys like Connor, who have struggled from three. Having Matt Gatens there can't hurt. So I'm hopeful that has actually made a substantial difference, and perhaps it is a small adjustment to the stroke where he can become a consistent threat from outside.
Another player I want to comment too on was Phillip. Is yes, it's one game, and maybe we need to see it strung together, and maybe against a higher quality opponent than Truman. But you can see he had skills, and he probably could have done this last year if he wanted to. But he was a good teammate, took a back seat, realized last year was Chris's team. And I'm just glad to see that he looked really good early on in the post with some of his offensive moves and looked very comfortable forcing the issue.
And that's one thing. I don't know, Tony, if you caught the interview with Fran that was released yesterday.
Yep, I did earlier today. Yep.
That's one thing that I keep hearing from Fran, just when I spoke with him and then just in other interviews, he seems really confident with Phillip's development inside. I think one thing with Phillip, too, is confidence-wise, when you transition from playing, in the Summit League, in North Dakota, to playing in the Big Ten, you're going to learn the hard. I mean, he played in the Summit League for 3 years? So confidence-wise, I think that may have been the biggest hurdle for him. And now that his confidence has shot up, I think sky's the limit for him. Let's not forget, too, he's got great basketball roots. He's got a dad who had a nice, long, lengthy career in the NBA, played for the Pistons for quite a period of time before he retired due to some heart issues. So I have no no issue imagining Philip Rebracha being able to be the mainstay at the 5 this year. I do wonder what they're going to do when they play guys like Zach Edey. I know they won last year in the tournament against Purdue, but they also lost 2 games in the regular season last year against Purdue. Most teams don't have that dominant 7-footer anymore, but there are a few out there that do, and I still worry about Iowa rebounding the basketball and being able to defend guys like Edey, guys like Zed Key, guys like Cliff Amori from Rutgers. Those are my biggest question marks. But no, definitely good sign from Philip today on both ends.
To kind of add on to what you're saying, and Jess mentioned this during the podcast, something that we have this year that we didn't have last year is you look at the 2 through 4, and all those guys are 6'8". I mean, Bohannon, great, love the guy, like not knocking him at all, but being able to put someone else at the 2 that's 6'8", along with the other 2 guys, 3 and the 4, the 6'8", that makes a huge difference on defense, and I think it might help with getting some of those rebounds or something like that that might kick out that we may not have been able to get in the past.
You're right. Their length across the board is very unique, and with Peyton Sandfort shooting up an inch in the offseason, Tony's long. I mean, people don't realize how he's got long arms, and that's part of what makes him a really good defender. But he can shot block as well. No, you're right. They're not real long at the 5, but they're long at almost every other position if you're looking clearly at wingspan, at height. And I was actually, they gave up 72, against Truman State, but I don't think you read too much into that. Honestly, if you watch the first part of that game, Truman State made a ton of difficult shots.
Yeah.
Truman State came ready to play. They weren't intimidated by the situation. They were obviously well coached with Jeff Horner. And I thought Iowa's defense was actually okay early. Do we really learn much? No. We're going to have to wait and see. But I'm with you. I think lengthwise, and Gary Close said the same thing in our preseason show, it's probably not too much of a concern unless you're going up against a guy like Zach Edey.
I think Bowen looks like the real deal. Like, there was some times where he penetrated in the lane and had some nice passes to the post player. It was a post entry feed. We've always wanted that guy who'd get into the lane and dish off to someone, right underneath the hoop. And I think Bowen had a few, I'd say, at least 3 or 4 of those drives, I think, if I remember right tonight, where he knifed into the
first play out there tonight. Tony, he missed, was brought up by Jess Settles. He missed an assignment, gave up an open 3. But as the game went on, he settled in. Both the freshmen settled in. And honestly, that first half for everybody, especially the freshmen, I think that first half is exactly what the doctor ordered. Because unlike last year where you have 6 cupcakes in the regular season, they have 2 very winnable games they should win, North Carolina A&T, Bethune-Cookman, and then it's all hands on deck. So they're going to need Bowen. Ulis comes back, assuming he's healthy. I mean, I know he's suspended for this game. Assuming he's healthy, he'll come back and they'll battle for time. But no, I've liked Bowen since he committed, and nothing tonight blew me out of the water, with what he did, but it also he held his own against a Division II team, which is what he should be doing even as a freshman.
I think with the other players like Tony, Patrick, Chris, Sanford, and Dix, they all did what we thought they'd do. Sanford and Dix are those sharpshooters, and both those guys are going to win us a game or 2 each just by getting hot. You can tell those guys will go on rolls. And Tony, Patrick, and Chris were solid. I think we also can see that, this team loves to share the ball, it seems like. There wasn't we're going to, like I mentioned earlier, force feed the guards or force feed the Murray. Not saying those were bad things, but you don't know where it's going to come from, I think, this year.
Agreed. Yeah. Chris Murray, I thought he looked good. Obviously scored, a cool 24. And I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, I want, that can be a good or a bad thing if you don't have a guy to turn to late in games. But yeah, it is intriguing to have multiple guys who all score in different ways. Like Patrick's unique. Chris is very unique. Tony is super unique in how he attacks offensively. And then Peyton, who's a guy who can just light it up from 3. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I was impressed with all 3 of those top scorers.
And then I just got one thing to close on, and Jess Settles mentioned it. It was great to hear Jeff Horner's story and let's use this as a PSA. Let's all get our health checked out and make sure we can live. And that dude fought through cancer and seems like he has a great outlook at life. And I'd love to see him end back up in Iowa City employed someday.
He's paying his dues right now. He's been coaching for a while. I know his health has been the biggest concern. He wasn't going to move any, he wasn't a candidate. I don't believe he was thought of as a candidate during this past cycle. I don't even know if, is it a step up? I'm assuming it is to be a full-time assistant at the Big Ten level from being a head coach at Truman State. But no, I'm with you. Good guy. And remember, let's not forget, before he was coaching college, he was coaching at West Des Moines Valley. So he's been coaching a long time now. And if he wants to move up the ranks, I'm sure he'll have that opportunity, assuming he can stay healthy.
And he was also a assistant coach at University of North Dakota under that form of, I forgot his name, the Jones the
tall
Hawkeye
guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just know that because I actually moved down from Grand Forks. I just lived up there for 4 years. So I had to follow UND when I was up there. So I'll let you go. I'll enjoy the show. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Tony. Thanks for being a premium subscriber.
Thank you.
Yeah, North Dakota. That was also the handshake incident. If anybody forgot about that, the handshake incident years ago when Jeff Horner was on the staff up there at North Dakota. One of a couple different handshake incidents at Iowa. Okay, we are going to continue here with James, who's on the phone in just a moment, and we've got Clayton and Doug also on hold. ZJ says some positives. Rebracha's aggressive offense. CMAC, that's Connor. Threes. 100-plus points. Perkins all-around game. Minor negatives. Defensive lapses. Rebracha's free throws. Perkins Tech. The Perkins Tech was ridiculous. Let me just say this, ZJ. That's my opinion. You don't give him a technical for doing this on a poster. Come on. This is an exhibition game, folks. I was frustrated by that. You're right about Rebracha. He's got to make free throws, right? If he's going to be aggressive offensively, which I think he will be a lot more aggressive offensively down low this year, he's got to be able to make free throws. Made some, but missed some as well. Again, I just don't know if, how much you read into one game from the free throw line, but you'd rather see him go in game one. As it relates to defensive lapses, I said it earlier, I thought Truman State just made tough shots early. Yeah, they Iowa went into a bit of a lapse there about through, I'd say, maybe the 13-minute mark through the 7-minute mark of the first half, and then Iowa made some subs, stepped it up, and that's when they really pulled away in that first half. But good observations, ZJ. Also, Jeremy says, first 6 games should be cupcakes, right? Not the case, Jeremy. We talked about Bethune-Cookman. They've got North Carolina A&T, but then you get Seton Hall, you get Georgia Tech, Iowa State, you get Clemson, potentially TCU, Duke in Madison Square Garden. No, the schedule much more difficult early and often. So this was needed. The test early, and they struggled early against this team. Truman State was hanging in there through the first 8 to 10 minutes of the game. But that was needed. I think that's needed for the young guys. And I don't know what, like the women winning the other night by 79 over Nebraska Kearney. I don't really know what that does. It was good to see some freshmen get involved there, but I hope that Bethune-Cookman's improved. I hope that North Carolina A&T is improved. I don't want to see Iowa win games by 50. Yeah, you have a chance to get some of the younger guys in there, some of the walk-ons, but I really don't think that tells you a whole lot about your team. Let's go on to James, who's been on hold. James, welcome back to the show.
How you been?
I'm good. Long time no here.
I'm not going to be here for that much basketball this year. Obviously, I coach high school basketball, so, depending on our schedule, I ain't going to be around as much, but that's why I'm going to try to be to as many as I can before the season gets started. But I just want to say, first off, playing Truman State is kind of, not just Horner being there, but, a lot of the kids that I, not really coached against, but, watched from a high school level, if that makes sense. I coach high school basketball, so, Trey Scher was a guy that I've known because my grandma lives in Montezuma, so, I've known, his family for a while, if that makes sense. So, watching him play was kind of, I didn't really watch it, I heard it, but I still knew he was out there, listening to him play and stuff is big for me because, I know who he is, So some of them kids do for me is kind of bigger because I'm still younger. I'm about your age, Corey. So, for me, I'm still young to where I can kind of know people, I'm saying, in high school.
Yeah.
On top of coaching high school, it kind of makes it more of a, cool thing to watch people like that. But I feel like overall, from what I heard, at least I saw some stuff on Twitter about it. Like, I feel like they did obviously what they should have done, because obviously you see Louisville lose. You talked about earlier. You see Louisville lose to Lenore Ryan. I didn't think we were going to lose to them, to Truman State, obviously, but you never know. You know, like you said, Augustana a couple of years ago. You never know.
Lost Augustana.
Yeah, like you never know. So that's why you always got to go out there and take care of business. Because even in these games, yes, okay, it's an exhibition game. It doesn't matter. But so I remember that team that lost Augustana kind of bounced back a little bit. They did. Everybody was like, thought the world was on fire when we lost Augustana. They're like, oh my gosh, everything's going, this and that. The team actually didn't finish that bad for losing to D2 school at the
you're right.
at the beginning of the year. So for me, it wasn't as big of a deal. I was like, well, you never know, because that was one of the premier, and I think Truman State's a lot more premier than Lenore Ryan is. So it's kind of a little bit better. It would have been a little better loss, so we don't worry about it. But you're talking about the schedule coming up. I feel like it's easy in a way that like Clemson and Georgia Tech are, I think, at the bottom of the ACC, if that makes sense. Because Clemson wasn't good last year. They were like 10, I think.
Clemson was not bottom of the Clemson
Were
was
they?
not bottom of the ACC.
Georgia Tech was, though. Georgia Tech was the worst team in the
Georgia
ACC
Tech
last year, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech was not good.
And then obviously I think playing TC would be cool too, because like I think Tony guarding Mike Miles would be a great matchup, I feel like.
Mike Miles. Who's Mike Miles? Is that the kid from Georgia?
It's the point guard for TCU. The all Big 12 point guard.
The physical kid. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Tony guarding him would be a good matchup. That'd be a fun matchup to watch.
Well, like I said, maybe I'm overhyping this, but the kid for Bethune is going to give them some.
French. Yeah, I have a guy that I played against in high school. He played at Iowa City West with all them guys. His name was Wally Parks. I'm sure of him. He went to play at Bethune-Cookman for a couple of years too. So, and he like has been around my area, so I kind of know him. I've heard him talking about French before and like how good he thinks he can be, or how good he is, but like, he thinks he could be even better this year than what he was last year for sure. And then obviously Iowa State's always one that you always want to win, but it seems like it's been a struggle game to win. And basketball it's been a struggle game for us.
Guarantees they get it back in Iowa City, but let's not forget what happened to Ames last year. That was
I also heard that they don't know who their point guard is going to be, because their point guard that they were having started point guard is going to be out for the year.
Talking about Iowa State?
Yeah, one of the transfers towards ACL or something. He's out for the year. I think it was either Jeremiah Williams or Jaron Holmes. I think it was Jeremiah Williams, though.
Yeah, was it one of the? No, I think it was. Yeah, let's see, Temple. I think it was a Temple transfer.
Yeah, that's Jeremiah Williams. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But yeah, he towards ACL, so that's gonna kind of put them back a little bit, whether it's start teaming with Leipzig or whoever that is. But like I said, I feel basketball is a lot more my expertise because I've been coaching for 5 years. I feel like I'm starting to understand all the, what to look for, and it's hard for me to watch basketball games nowadays because I trust Fran. Don't get me wrong. But obviously, as a coach, like you see something, and then you second guess it, and then it goes right. Then you'll be like, okay, yeah, I get why you did that. But at first, when you did something, I'll be like, why are you doing that? And then it will work. And then I'm like, yep, see, that's why you're getting paid the big bucks. Maybe I should just sit here and be quiet. But sometimes you just always have your choice. But I just wanted to let you know that, like, no matter what, I'll always be here. Like, I won't be on the show, but it's just good to always have it to show, and I'll try to watch as much as I can. But
hey, remember the shows I want you to be here live, James, but the shows are on demand as well, so you can catch them when you can.
I'll try, but I enjoy the night. And this one wasn't as big, but I'll be here after the Bethune one because our season don't start yet, so I'll be watching the whole game there.
Sounds good, James. We'll talk to you on Monday.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, rolling along here. Appreciate everybody being here. As a recap, if anybody, I'm sure some of you who are watching do not have BTN Plus, did not subscribe. So I'll give you a brief recap. Iowa, of course, before we get to our next caller, Iowa winning this game over Jeff Horner's Truman State, 118-72. And a good game for Chris Murray, a cool 24 points. Kind of did so like his brother, kind of quiet. You kind of just didn't even notice he was at 24, had 7 boards to go along with it. Philip Rebracha solid with 14 points, 6 rebounds. Tony Perkins with 18 points, 5 boards. And those freshmen, again, in a game like this where you're up 50, you're not going to be playing extended minutes, and so they didn't play extended minutes. As far as total minutes played, this would be a good number to give you. Philip Rebracha played 22 minutes. Patrick McCaffrey, 26. Chris Murray, just 24 minutes played. Tony Perkins, 21 minutes played. Peyton Sanford, 23. Desante Bowen, 20. Connor McCaffrey, 21. Josh Dix, 12. Josh Agundale 12, and Carter Kingsbury picked up 7. Mulvey with just 5. Dante Eldridge with 3.5. Luke Laqueta 3.5. I don't know how to say this without. I don't want to be offensive to anybody. I'm disappointed with what I saw from Iowa's 2 bigs off the bench. Now, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe one of them was banged up a little bit. I don't know that to be the case. I don't want that to be the case necessarily, but when you see that Carter Kingsbury totaled more minutes than Riley Mulvey, and Mulvey in an exhibition game got 5 minutes, I don't care what the matchup is. This is an exhibition for a kid that needs to take a step forward. Now, granted, he should be a freshman this year. He reclassified up, played last year, should have been in high school last year. So, this is not the make or break year for him. But if it's not Josh Agundale developing there, then it has to be Riley Mulvey. And the fact that we saw Riley for 5 minutes is a concern. We saw Josh Agundale for 12. I mean, look, moving forward in the Big Ten play, you're probably not going to need Agundale and Mulvey for more than what they combined for 17 minutes. No, you're not going to need them longer than that. But this is what they totaled against Truman State. I'm concerned because when I watch these 2 guys today, and I watch this whole game, folks, especially Josh, because we got an extended look at Josh Agundale. I thought Josh Agundale kind of looked the same. I know that sounds bad. I'm not trying to rip the kid, but I didn't see anything different from Josh Agundale. I don't want to say it looks like he's gained weight because that's unfair. I don't know if he has, but it doesn't look to me, my untrained eyes on television did not look like he has lost weight. That's a concern. Now, I know he had a virus. I think it was COVID last year. I've been told that set him back a bit, but I am a bit concerned with the lack of body tone, I should say, or just doesn't look like the physical side of development has necessarily come yet for him. And boy, if it's not here by now, this is his 3rd year here. I'm concerned that it may never, ever happen. Remember, he was in the portal, came back. Iowa took him back. And at the time, I'll admit, I said, hey, they must have reason to think he's going to take a big step forward because why take him back? I get it. They swung and missed on some guys in the portal, guys like Trey Mitchell, guys like Fardaz Amack. But it does not appear, at least from this small window, looking into this team, it does not look like Josh Agundale has taken a huge step forward conditioning-wise. And with the lack of minutes for both Mulvey and Agundale, I'm concerned that neither one of those guys has emerged. That is concerning. Let's get to our next caller. Clayton's on the phone. Clayton, welcome to the show.
Hey, Corey, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Good deal. I didn't watch the game tonight, so I don't have a whole lot to comment about the game. But
no, you're fine. Whatever. We'll take this wherever you want to go.
Okay. Careful there. That's dangerous.
Well, within reason, of course.
I had a question. What do you think Iowa's biggest weakness is going to be this year? Last year, I thought it was rebounding, but
good question. I'm always going to be concerned with just defense in general. You watch this team on the floor. They lose Keegan, they lose Joe Toussaint. They still have good athleticism with Tony Perkins, with Chris Murray. Patrick McCaffrey can defend. I think Connor's become a better defender as his career has gone on. They have good. I think they actually have pretty good individual defenders. Peyton scares me a little bit because if they start playing him at the 2, which Fran has acted like they may do at times, I don't know how he's going to guard 2s in the Big Ten. But rebounding is a concern because they don't have that real big size at the 5. But as our caller brought up earlier, Clayton, they are long across the board. So rebounding would be certainly a concern. Defense is obviously, I'd still say if you had to put a gun to my head, defense in general is still my biggest concern. The only other thing I'd worry about specifically would be the 5 spot because I just don't know. I mean, as far as 3-point shooting, you lose Bohannon, you lose Keegan, who turned into an excellent 3-point shooter at the end of his Iowa career. There would be concerns with 3-point shooting, but boy, with Connor making threes tonight, that gives you an inkling that maybe he's taking a step forward. You've got Sanford. Perkins looked good from 3 tonight. Josh Dix looked good from 3 tonight. I don't think that's too much of a concern. And especially for a Fran coach team, I tend to lean more towards concerns on defense.
Yeah, I went to that Illinois game last year, early in the season. I can't remember what the date was, but
Yeah, I remember that
I
game.
think is his name Cockburn, their big center? I think he's gone
Coburn.
now.
Coburn.
Coburn.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just tore us apart. That was a really hard game to watch.
Yeah, but remember, they got out rebounded by like double in that game. They could not attack. They did not attack the glass. That was as bad of a rebounding performance as I've ever seen. And I was at the Iowa State game in Ames. That was bad too. Both those games were, as far as rebounding the basketball, Iowa just did not have a clue in that game. And they did improve as the season went on, but I can see why you would say that. And yeah, with Filip Rebraca, you know, how big can he play at 6'8", 6'9"? They're going to be going up against, again, Zed Key, Cliff Amori, Trace Jackson Davis. I mentioned the kid Zach Edey from Purdue. So yeah, rebounding is a concern, no question.
You kind of already answered it, but that was kind of my second question. Do you think Philip is more of a 4 than a 5? You feel like he's misutilized?
Well, I do. I don't know that I feel that he's more of a 4 than a 5. That's a great question, Clayton. But here's the problem: they can't play him at the 4 unless one of those big guys can play. And it doesn't. That's the problem. It does not appear that either of those big guys, Ogundele or Mulvey, are ready to take significant minutes. And so if they're ready, so say Ogundele can play 8 minutes a game, or say 5 minutes a game, and Mulvey can play 5. Okay, then that gives 10 minutes for Philip on the bench. But they're not going to be playing. If they're playing Philip for 30 minutes at the 5, ain't playing him anytime at the 4. That's my concern. Now maybe Fran finds a way to do that, but that would make me very, very nervous. You're putting a really big load on a guy in Filip Rebraca who's going to be playing guys bigger than him most of the year. So that is a concern for me, and a frustration that it does not appear that Mulvey and everything I heard out of practice, and for the sake of this discussion, everything I heard in practice during the fall was that, you know, Mulvey and Ogundele were still behind the curve. So I am kind of reading into what we saw tonight, but at the same time, it kind of solidifies what I continue to hear during the offseason, that neither one of those guys had really gotten to a point where you really trust them to log anywhere close to starter minutes. And so, yeah, I would love to see Rebraca at the 4 if they had a 5.
Yeah. Not only just defensively, but offensively as well. I heard he's got a really nice jump shot, and we don't get to see that very much when he's at the 5, obviously. Where if he was at the 4, maybe we would get to see that more.
I know when I chatted with Philip and had him on the show, he acted like we're going to see that more this year. And it's not like a 5 can't shoot. There's no reason in Fran's offense that Philip still can't shoot. But it is, you know, we didn't really see that much tonight. Did he even take a 3? I don't think he did. Yeah, didn't take a 3. He's 5 of 7 from the floor, no attempts from 3. In fact, he and Ogundele were the only guys that played at least 10 minutes that did not attempt a 3-point shot. So I don't know. We'll see if he's as improved from outside as it sounds like he is. I'm sure we'll see it at some point, but a little bit surprised we didn't see him stretch the floor from 3 tonight.
Yeah, cool. I think that's all I really had, unless you have time for a football question, or is that not allowed on the basketball
question?
So they have 4 games left. What do you think? More likely to win them all, or more likely to lose them all?
More likely to lose them all.
I was afraid you're going to say that.
Well, I have a hard time. Look, I was thinking about this evening, and believe me, Clayton, how long have you been watching this show? I'm curious.
So I started after the Iowa State game, and I was pissed after that game because I went to it. Okay. And I live fairly close to the stadium, so I walked home about 1.5 miles in the pouring rain. I was pissed off. My buddy was pissed off. It was a long walk home.
Well, I'll tell you this, Clayton. You obviously haven't been listening to me a whole, real long time, but if you have, you'll know that we try to go full bore on this show. So we even during the off season, we're hitting football hard. And so believe me, when I have downtime, I try not to think about football, but I found myself this evening before this Iowa basketball game thinking about Iowa football. And my thought on the offense is this. We have a couple days to kind of digest what happened against Northwestern. I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter. Well, look, they played, and that was the narrative on this show after the football game on Saturday. Look, they played Ohio State. They played Michigan. They played a really good defense in Illinois, pretty good defense in Iowa State, pretty good defense in Rutgers. South Dakota State's tearing it up in the FCS. Maybe this team is better than we thought. Okay, sure. I get that narrative. I get that line of thinking. Here's what I'll say to that, though. Usually, in all aspects of life, right, including in sports, things tend to even out. They tend to return to the mean. And Clayton, the offense looked good on Saturday. They ran the football well. Holes were big. It's against a bad football team in Northwestern. Spencer Petras played well because he had tons of time. But things tend to return to the mean. And Clayton, is it possible that things just clicked all of a sudden? And all of a sudden, Iowa, the offense just figured it out, and the offensive line just figured it out, and Spencer figured it out?
Probably not.
Is that possible? I guess. But Clayton, my point is, when I say things typically return to the mean, what is the mean? What is the baseline for a Kirk Ferentz / Brian Ferentz offense, at least over the last couple of years? What is the mean?
150 yards passing, maybe 50 on the ground.
Yeah. Bad. I hate to say that. I'm not saying that you can't improve, but I'm just saying, yeah, they look like a different team on Saturday. I'm not trying to sound like negative Nancy here, but I just, without really being able to know until we see them against Purdue, I have the hunch that they will return to the mean. Now, hopefully there is improvement, but I don't think it's nearly as vast as it looked on Saturday, because Northwestern is a train wreck right now. I don't know how they've gotten to that point, but they're at that point. So I think they'll return to the mean, Clayton. And if they return to the mean, I don't know how they win 4 straight games. It's possible, but much more likely that they were to lose all 4. I don't think they'll lose all 4, for the record. I'm not predicting that. I think they'll find a way to beat somebody. Maybe they go 2-2 in that stretch. They go 2-2. You're looking at a 6-6 season. You may end up getting to 7-6. Now, some Iowa fans, Clayton, will say it's a bad thing, because 7-6, is that enough to enable Kirk to keep Brian on staff and hush some of the naysayers? I sure hope not. You don't want to be in a position, Clayton, where you have to root against your team.
No, I'm right there with you, but some people want to see change, and sometimes it takes losses to do that. So
I had these conversations with a lot of people, and I understand it. It's not, you're not a traitor to the state because you express that and acknowledge the elephant in the room. So
yeah, I don't care if they go to the Pinstripe Bowl to play Boston College. Sorry, I'd rather.
Yeah, I don't either. Now, bowl development, we hear about bowl practice, and Kirk's talked about that. It does help your team, but no, I'm with you. I don't care to see a 6-6 bowl team fight for 7-6 against another 7-5 team or 6-6 team. So I don't know. This is going to be a final 4 games of the season, and Purdue's tough, man. They're obviously they've had Iowa's number, but defensively they get into the backfield. I think we're going to see a totally different game than we saw on Saturday. I am not bought in yet, Clayton.
I would agree. With that whole waist down thing, I know you're a big proprietor of it, and me too. I'm right there with you. They do not use their waist downs. But I had a thought. Do you think it's because he's so scared that we're going to get sacked, and our 2nd and 1 or 2nd and 2 is going to turn into a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and then we're just going to be behind the chains? That's why he's not calling those shot plays?
Yeah, probably. And that goes right back to playing scared, playing fearful, playing conservative, playing not to lose. And that's what we're all tired of, right? That's what Iowa fans have been tired of for years, not just with Brian, but with Kirk in general. So if that's the reason, I don't know if it is. If that's the reason, I think it's a lame reason.
Agreed.
And by the way, Clayton, the whole point of using a waist down is Iowa's been running on 2nd and 1 and 2nd and 2 all year. So what do you think the defense is going to be playing on 2nd and 1?
Oh yeah, they expect a run.
They expect a run. That's why you go play action and you take a shot. So If we're afraid of Spencer not having time on 2nd and 1, come on. I don't buy that. Now maybe that's their thinking, Clayton, but that's exactly why you take advantage of it. And yeah, that's why you don't use every 2nd and 1 as a waste down. But boy, you have to break tendency at some point, and Iowa doesn't seem to understand that concept.
At this point, I wouldn't care if they kept a tight end and a running back in, went empty, or went one receiver, two receivers, and just threw the ball as far as Spencer Petras could on 2nd and 1 or 2nd and 2. And if it was an incomplete pass, it was an incomplete pass. But if they just threw the ball down the field.
Well, the problem with going empty on 2nd and 1, Clayton, is Spencer Petras is no risk to run. So the defense knows it's a pass. I mean,
no, empty was my mistake. I said if they keep like 2 backs back there, 2 tight ends, just have 1 receiver and just hurl the ball down there.
Yeah,
I would rather see that than a 2nd and 1 right.
Yeah, as long as you're not throwing a pick or taking a sack,
Yeah.
you should be able to get that 1 yard on 3rd down. That's why it's called a waste down.
Yep.
It's not a difficult concept, but for some reason it is.
All right, I've taken enough of your time. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Clayton. Appreciate the call, sir. All right, we've got Doug on hold, and we've got a caller who's been waiting patiently on hold for a long time. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line? Lemansky, you sound like you're in a well, Lemansky.
How's this better?
Oh, there you go. You're loud and clear, Lemansky. And guess what, Lemansky?
What'd I win?
No, I was going to say, the call-in line is working.
Well, I don't need to call in. I still enjoy your show even if it's down.
Well, I'm just happy this call-in line is working. I was starting to get a little bit frustrated, but appreciate you hanging on hold for so long.
No, you're very welcome. I'd shout out to Hawkeye Howard, one of the great chatters, one of the great Iowa Hawkeyes who has a big week this week. And just want to tell Hawkeye Howard to hang in there. We're going to have some offense this winter. So look forward to that, and we'll enjoy that together, Hawkeye Howard.
Absolutely. I expressed this to Hawkeye Howard. He's in my thoughts and prayers, and you'll pull through just fine, and it's a blip on the radar, and appreciate those sentiments, Lemansky.
Well, I'm going to draw some analogies between football and basketball, and you can tell me I'm full of it, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's interesting to me, the quality of recruiting and where some of our players come from, and you gotta have a certain level of assistance to be elite. And I think your prediction on the football team is more likely to happen than to be too optimistic. But we've got an assistant that went to be a head coach in Elon. I think you and I are high on Gatens. He kept Speraw, the old Iowa guy I remember I was very little, but I remember when Speraw couldn't get on the floor as a starter. But when Speraw got in, when we had big leads, he could shoot the basketball, and he was our shot doctor. And now we got Gatens. And so I think our offensive assistance, our offensive expertise in basketball is night and day to football. The other thing that's stylistic and just chemistry is that, both Fran and his wife are outstanding basketball players. Maybe most people don't know Fran's wife played European basketball. Fran was kind of a terror as a basketball player as far as gifted. And so when you've got a son of a basketball coach in Connor McCaffrey, he can teach the younger players. And I think the intellect and the teaching ability of Lute, Tom Davis, Brad Lohaus was so gangly and uncoordinated. A lot of people thought he was a bust early on. He played for the Celtics. He was just taught, and he came around as far as being coordinated. And, our style, Fran's style, is popular to young people. I don't dislike our Iowa football style, but I know in modern football, the USC style, the Tennessee style, everything changes, and you got to reinvent yourself, and Alabama's sure done it. But our style in basketball is very valued, and that's going to serve us well. And I'm pretty optimistic about I look at things from 3,000 feet as much as I can. And we can be very optimistic about the program. And there's a lot of things in place, and there's proof years gone by. We can develop players, but we can recruit players. And our style of up-tempo is a lot like Tom Davis. But the up-tempo style with enough depth can win you a lot of games. And so I'm very, very pleased with the Iowa basketball program and where we're going.
I agree with you. I think, the big questions that we brought up earlier, defense and rebounding, have been a question for years now, Lemansky. And look, I know people don't want to give Fran credit for getting over the hump in the Big Ten tournament last year, but I think he deserves credit because that was a monkey on the back of Fran McCaffery as well. They had struggled to win in that tournament under Fran. They get off the schneid last year, and not only they get off the schneid, they win 4 games in 4 days. Right? Is it 4 games in 4 days? They beat, Northwestern, Rutgers, Indiana, and Purdue. So give them credit. Now the monkey, Lemansky, they've got to win in the tournament. They've got to. So regardless of what they do in the regular season, I'll be watching every game. I'll be here for every game. Can we both agree they've got to win in that tournament?
I don't measure our program. I don't measure our program. I got Mark Rogers to laugh because he said at the Iowa channel, you don't talk about championships. And I said it tongue in cheek and got him to laugh. But, as long as your program's going the right direction, I think you said earlier you wanted the Iowa basketball program to get to the second round. And I think you're right. I think we can hold them accountable for that. But the NCAA tournament is one of the wackiest dang things you've ever seen in your life as far as my history of watching, what a wonderful thing for St. Peter to frustrate MVP. And I love MVP to death. But it's a typical example of that tournament is such a crapshoot. Let's talk about Purdue last year. Where did I have Purdue going? I had Purdue at minimum going to the Sweet 16. They had the talent to go to the Elite 8. Big guys. And I'm going back too far, and people can laugh at me. If Ronnie Lester hadn't been hurt, they would have won the whole thing and beat Denny Crum's Louisville. And he got hurt. Steve Waite and Steve Craftsison, I met Steve Waite. Those guys were big brawlers and slow. We just had chemistry. Kevin Boyle played his best basketball as a freshman and a great defender. A lot of it is just chemistry and how far you go. I'm really excited about our depth. And I think if DeSante can be that quick, Ronnie Lester type quickness that we've never had at the point to the level of other Big Ten, like Ivy, that's going to make a difference. I share your concern about rebounding. Our style, you got so many shooters, that's kind of comes with the style. But, Clay Hargrave at 6'4" led the Big Ten in rebounding. Ed Pickney at Villanova when they won a national championship are not very big. So let's just get behind the Hawks and recognize that you can't be good at everything. And we sure have the building blocks in place more than Iowa football program. And I love Iowa football dearly, but the program's in the right direction in basketball.
I agree, Lemansky. My only argument to what you said, and first of all, you're putting a lot on DeSante, comparing him to Ronnie Lester and who was the other one you said? Ronnie Lester and Jaden Ivey. Those are pretty big shoes to fill. But I'll say this. I'm a pro Fran guy. I mean, I like Fran McCaffery. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a really good coach. I think he's gotten a bad rap for some recruiting losses that it's just sometimes the way the cookie crumbles. NIL hasn't helped. He's been close in the portal. They've been close in the tournament. But the reason I would argue with you a little bit, Lemansky, is yes, the bar doesn't need to be Sweet 16 every year, but they haven't made a Sweet 16 since 1999. So Yes, the tournament's crazy. I agree with you. You're absolutely right on that. But don't you think Fran's been here like 13 years. Don't you think it's time to get to the Sweet 16 once?
I would like to do a summary of a lot of the programs and how far they've made it in the tournament and how far, which programs, because then you can criticize the entire Big Ten the last few years, Corey. Now you just gave MVP some bullets for his gun.
Yeah.
Don't give MVP any bullets for the SEC gun. That drives me crazy.
Well, yeah, that's a good discussion to have. But yeah, I mean, I just saying it's been 13 years with Fran, or 12 years with Fran. It's been 23 years since the team has made it. I think that's time. But yeah, I'm sure there's other schools. There's other schools that haven't been. I don't think Northwestern's ever been to a Sweet 16, right? Until recently, they hadn't been to a tournament. So I'm not saying there aren't other teams out there, but Iowa's got some rich history in basketball. It's time to get off that schneid. And I can tell you this right now, Lemansky, it is not that team that made that Sweet 16. Gary Close was a part of that team, as you well know. Those guys don't want that to be the most recent Sweet 16 trip. They want that. They want this Iowa team. They want this Iowa program to get off that schneid and break that streak. And I think they have a shot at doing it. I mean, I think this is a tournament team, and you're right about the tournament. It's crazy. Teams can lose at any point, in the tournament. But if a team gets hot at the right time, you never know. What's weird about Iowa last year is they got hot at the right time and then, boom, ran into a wall against Richmond. Very strange, but at least they were riding momentum into the tournament. If they can do that again this year, odds would tell you they're not going to fall flat in the first round again, but they got to prove it.
Give me your view on Lisa Bluter and the women's basketball team. Let's just segue into that with the same discussion.
Oh, I enjoyed watching that 79-point win the other night, Lemansky, and I mentioned.
No, we're talking about how far they go in the tournament, Corey.
Well, again, you're right. It doesn't. There's no guarantees, but this is a team that if they don't make at least the Sweet 16, that's a failure for a lot of people. And I don't place all the importance on the Sweet 16. I don't place all the importance on the NCAA tournament. Just today, I think it was Lemansky, somebody commented on the YouTube channel and said, nobody cares about the Big Ten tournament. Nobody cares. It's all about the NCAA. So some people do feel that way, Lemansky. I know you disagree, and so do I. I responded. I said, I don't agree with that. I just don't. I appreciate both. And Lemansky, you and I both had the time of our lives watching them win that Big Ten tournament last year, did we not?
Against better talent, probably.
Well, yeah, my point, my reason I bring that up is the women are the same way. I mean, you can't take away. They had a great regular season, won the Big Ten tournament. I mean, the women won their tournament too, win their first round, and then find a way to lose at home to Creighton in the second round. I mean, they had home court advantage and lost. That was odd. So no, it's a one and done format. It's what makes the tournament great. It's what makes the tournament incredibly difficult. And so, yeah, I don't place all my chips on it, especially for Lisa Bluter because she's been to a Sweet 16 recently. Fran has not, but I'm excited about both teams. Absolutely.
My tolerance of people that don't hold a season ticket to basketball or football or are not alumni or who are overly critical of the youngsters is beginning to frustrate me in some regard.
Okay. Including
because today I sent an email to Phil Parker and thanked him for all he did. And I thanked him for playing those youngsters against Northwestern. So I guess I'm an anti-Twitter guy. And, let me see some stuff in Twitter where I'm going to keep my season tickets. I sent an email to Phil Parker and thanked him. Hope he's the next head coach. Let's get in the ball game, folks. Let's not be a bunch of whiners, then go to work and then not contribute to the Iowa program in a way that brought Hayden Fry to Iowa by filling the stadium when we were losing or winning 3 to 4 games a year. I'll quit my preaching, but I guess I've said what I believe in.
Lemansky, I appreciate you, and I absolutely don't disagree with anything you said. There should be more emphasis on the season as a whole, and Fran deserves credit for what he's done. Absolutely.
Well, when they go to the second round, you look for my $100 donation to you and tell me if I shouldn't send it through Super Chat, if I should mail you a check. But you're contributing to what I want from other people. So when they get to the second round in the NCAA tournament, I'll send you $100 somehow, any way you want it.
Sounds good, Lemansky. I appreciate your support, sir.
You bet. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Lemansky. All right. We've got Doug on the phone. We've got a number of questions that I did not forget. And Doug, hang tight. Appreciate you being so patient this evening, and have not forgotten about you. We're going to take one quick break to thank our sponsor, Ascent Nutrition. They've been great to us to help this show get off the ground and stay off the ground. Ascent Nutrition, a message from them. Lance Shuttler, who's an Iowa guy. But again, Iowa winning tonight, 118-72. We'll be back right after a word from our sponsor. Hawkeye fans, let's talk about health and performance optimization for a moment. Our sponsor, Ascent Nutrition, offers amazing products. It's actually owned by former Iowa graduate Lance Shuttler. Now, I've decided to partner with Ascent Nutrition because of their unique approach to human health. Ascent offers an organically grown, mold and mycotoxin-free coffee. It provides a pure, clean, and rich flavor without those pesticides that most coffees are treated with. They also offer an algae oil DHA, which is used to support brain health, memory, and focus, as well as proper nervous system development in adults, children, athletes, and even pets. Now, lastly, their unique crafted wild pine pollen is used to support cardiovascular health, hormonal function, and a healthy libido. Your purchase not only supports this channel, but the business of a former Hawkeye. Visit goascentnutrition.com or click the link in the description below and use the code Hawkeyes. That's the code Hawkeyes to receive 15% off your total order from Ascent Nutrition. Ascent Nutrition, Lance Shuttler, supporting this show and selling great products. That coffee, folks, is going to be featured on a couple of major networks. I think Fox Business, CNN, PBS, some major activity. That company taking off and doing great things. I had 2 cups of their coffee this morning. Clean, perks you up. I say that every day, but it really does. And it just pure tasting. It's mold and mycotoxin-free coffee. Again, Ascent Nutrition. Visit goascentnutrition.com and use that code Hawkeyes to receive 15% off your order. Tony wants to know how it was to interview Fran. Fran's a great guy. He's a no-nonsense guy, right? He's a straight shooter. I had a question that I had for him before the season, and I'll just say it was relating to NCAA tournament success, and he didn't love the question, but I asked it to him before he went live, and he kind of shut it down, but he did so. I wasn't disrespectful about it. He didn't necessarily have an answer to the question. He just thought it wasn't, the question didn't make. I'll just tell you the question. The question was, is there any different approach to the NCAA tournament moving forward? And I kind of compared it to how Kirk Ferentz made a move with bowl prep. And basically Fran said, well, the only reason I don't think that question's real relevant is because we don't have any time. We don't have time like a football team has to prepare for a bowl game. And I said, okay, fine. I appreciate you answering the question, Coach. That was his way of saying, no, we're not approaching it any differently. And Lemansky's right. I mean, Lemansky called in a little bit before that commercial break. He's right. It's a one-and-done format. Sometimes the luck of the draw or just how the ball falls, right? How the ball bounces, so to speak, you can't account for. So, but no, Fran is a good guy, Tony. I appreciate Fran, and I thought he was very insightful during that interview. I haven't checked out the interview. Definitely listen to the interview here on the channel. Doug, let's welcome Doug. Doug, you have been more than patient. Appreciate you calling into the show tonight.
Yeah, you got me?
I got you loud and clear, sir.
All right. Well, I've had a lot of time to think. But I was thinking about Sweet 16s, and I was thinking about Jeff. I've known Jeff since he was 11. Me and him are the exact same age. I've competed against him quite a bit. I have a story at the end I would like to tell about Jeff Horner and my Ames High experience. But first of all, that 06 team should won 25 games. It should have been a Sweet 16 team. They were a 3 seed, and I think the 6 seed even lost. So they had a really easy path in 06 to get to the Sweet 16. And I've heard from Bruner and Adam, they just overlooked the team, basically, Northwestern State, or else they would have went to the Sweet 16 that year. Offord only had one NCAA tournament win in 8 years. So, I mean, Fran's doing okay, but, fired.
The record, Doug, I'm assuming you will agree with me when I say it's time to get to the Sweet 16.
Oh, I as a fan, really, really need them to get to the Sweet 16 because I remember 99. I remember JR and that team. I was a freshman in high school, and everyone I've watched the Steve Alford hiring thing on YouTube. Like they have, and we were supposed to go to the next level, and we were supposed to go to Final Fours and stuff when they hired Alford, and that didn't quite happen. we took a step backwards. So I tell people, you need to, all Tom Davis did was win 20 games 5 straight years and lose his job. So I tell people you need to be a little patient because that last year he did go to the Sweet 16. But we'll see how this year goes. I was very impressed with Josh Dix. I thought with the leg injury, I wasn't expecting much. I have a question for you because you didn't read it off the stats. I know Ulyss is suspended. You posted that. What was with Nimmers, the Rock Island kid? Is he not playing, or you don't know anything?
Assuming he's out with an injury because he did not dress.
Okay.
Yep.
Again, it doesn't really matter, but I thought if Dix was hurt, maybe we needed another guard. But
well, Doug, while we're on here, do you mind if I read the stats off while you're on the phone?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me go ahead and do that. So I'll give everybody the box score, and as people have seen, I've been posting a few of the top scores. So of course, Chris Murray with 24, Philip Abracha with 14, Peyton with 14. But let me go ahead and give everybody else an idea of the total numbers for Iowa in this game. So again, Philip, I mentioned with 14 points, had 6 rebounds, struggled the free throw line. That's going to be a story. He was 4 of 8 for 50%. You look at Patrick, he had just 9 points, but just attempted 8 shots, made 4 of them, missed his only 2 3-point attempts, 1 of 1 from the free throw line. Chris Murray had 24 with 7 total rebounds, 9 of 14 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Tony Perkins had 18 points with 7 rebounds. And Tony was 7 of 8 from the field, including 2 of 2 from 3. Good sign for Tony. And he was perfect at the free throw line. Peyton Sandfort with 14 total points. By the way, Tony had 4 assists. I should add that in as well. Good game for Tony. Peyton Sandfort with 14 total points, 6 of 10 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point land. DeSante had just 2 total points, but 8 assists. That's a good sign there. And 0 turnovers for the true freshman who played 20 minutes. So didn't show a lot of offensive prowess as far as scoring is concerned, but be a facilitator. And yes, a Division II team, but took care of the basketball. Connor had 12 points, perfect from outside, 4 of 4 from 3, 4 of 5 overall, 4 of 5 overall, and 4 of 5 from 3. Missed one in the second half. Also had 5 boards, 5 assists. Josh Dix, you mentioned him, Doug, had 8 points, 2 rebounds, just 1 turnover as a freshman. Josh Agundale played just 12 minutes, was 3 of 3 from the field with 7 points, 2 turnovers. Again, looks slow to me, which is a concern. Carter Kingsbury made a couple threes. It got Chess Settles pumped. He had 6 points on 2 of 2 shooting. Riley Mulvey played 5 minutes, was 0 of 1 from the field. Dante Eldridge made a 3. Was 2 of 2. Actually, they gave him, 2 twos. No 3s for Dante, but he was 2 of 2 from the field with 4 points. And then Luke Laquetta missed his only 2 field goal attempts. So in total, Iowa, let me pull up their team stats here. for the game, they shot 64.8% from the field, 56% from three, 71% from the free throw line, held Truman State to 42% overall from the field, 36% from three. So, I mean, just by the numbers, Doug, I don't think you really have much room to complain. And again, that first half, yes, Truman State hung around, but I just give them credit. They did not look intimidated by the moment. Turnovers are a concern, whenever you're talking about a team that lost some veteran leadership like Jordan Bohannon and Keegan Murray and Joe Toussaint, but they've got veteran leadership in Connor McCaffrey, Patrick McCaffrey, etc. Iowa had 27 points off of Truman State turnovers, just 8 points given up off turnovers. Total for the game, let me find turnovers here for Iowa. Should be here somewhere. Turnovers. I'll find it. Okay, turnovers. 8 turnovers total for the game compared to 19 for Truman State. Yeah, I don't really see anything else, Doug, that jumps out at me off the stat sheet. They had 39 points off the bench, and they scored 118. So I don't know how much you read into that. They scored 58 of those points in the paint. They scored at will. This is what Fran teams do in these games. They score at will, and you kind of read between the lines and other things. And we'll find out a little bit more against a Bethune-Cookman team that's likely a step up from Truman State. Right? They're Division I, albeit last year a bad Division I team, but they are a Division I team. So we'll get another indication. It's a nice kind of stepping stone, and then we'll get one more primer before you hit the big boys.
Yeah. I had one more question, and then I had a little story I wanted to tell about Jeff Horner. But anyway, do you know anything about, because right now it looks like Freeman would probably be our starting 5 next year. I don't understand why those two can't develop or haven't developed yet. But do you know anything about the guy from Iowa Falls, the Ellsworth Community College guy, the 7-footer from Africa?
I was going to say, which one of them? There's a couple of them that are getting some high major interest. The big man, you're talking about the 7-footer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think we need somebody. I mean, I'm cheering for Josh and Riley, but they're not doing much. I mean, I don't. If they were, they'd get more than 5 minutes in the game.
Well, it's unfortunate, Doug, that Riley kind of gets lumped into the conversation about Josh, because Riley's only been here a year. I mean,
understand.
He was young last year, should have been in high school last year. Does he need to develop? Yes, but the clock is ticking a lot faster on Josh. And Doug, did you watch the game live today, or did you listen to it?
No, I watched it live.
Did it not appear? Did it? Again, I'm very careful how I say this, but did it appear to you that Josh has lost any weight?
No, me and my dad were commenting when he was at the free throw line. He was drenched in sweat. Like, he did not look in shape at all. Like, no, he definitely looked slow. I mean, I thought we agreed. Like, I kind of agree with you. He doesn't look like he's lost any weight. If anything, it looks like he kind of gained it. I mean, I'm not sure, because I'm not around the guy, and television, and especially on Big Ten Plus, you can't tell much. But yeah, I think he still looks very much out of shape, which is, I mean, that's an effort thing, I think. But again, I don't want to be critical of a person I don't know.
Exactly.
But
yeah, I don't know either. And we know he got sick. Don't know his situation fully, but no, you're right. I was concerned too when I saw him. Didn't look like the body has changed a whole lot. But they don't need a ton of minutes from him and Mulvey if Phillip just plays exclusively at the 5. I just wish that Phillip could get some time at the 4. And the problem is right now, it does not appear like he's going to be able to.
Yeah, and again, it's an exhibition game. I mean, I don't like being critical of our players. I'm not a bad fan, and I know what people say about, like, our football quarterbacks and stuff. But, again, I just, would like, a guy in his 3rd year to start getting playing time. And, he came back for a reason. I mean, I'm cheering for Josh. We need him. And, I'm hoping everything works out. The last thing I wanted to comment on, and
real quick, Doug, before your last comment, you asked me about the Ellsworth guy, right?
Yes.
So 7-footer, can shot block. He's long. I think he's a lefty, can shoot the three really well. I first saw him a number of months ago before he was getting a ton of offers, before Iowa ever offered him. And I actually had a really short correspondence with Matt Gatens about that kid. And so I was not shocked that Iowa offered him, just based upon when I spoke with Matt briefly. I knew they were aware of him, and of course you're going to be aware of a guy who's 7 foot, 7 foot, right in the middle of Iowa, who at the time I think had just gotten offered by Cincinnati. So I don't know where his recruitment is, Doug, but Iowa's offered. Boy, he'd be a great ad. I would have to think he's getting offered by, again, high major programs right now, and he brings you something you don't have, and that is a 7-footer who appears ready to contribute. And can stretch the floor. Mulvey and Ogundele, those guys don't shoot threes. I mean, they haven't proven to me that they can shoot threes. They haven't proven to me they can run up and down the court for more than 5 or 6 minutes a game.
Yeah. And I just wanted to finish off. Just say, I have many Jeff Horn stories, so I actually won't even share any of them. I just wanted to say it's great to see him healthy and coaching. Like I say, he was a rival of mine growing up, and at Ames High we had a lot of battles. He actually scored 50 points against us, and we beat him. It's the most points in a 4A game that an opponent has ever had and lost back in 2002 when I was at Ames High. I just out the end of the bench. But, yeah, I have a lot more stories about our competitiveness. But he was for people my age, a star in Iowa. He was Mr. Basketball in 2002, and I'm just so happy to see him coaching. Like one of your other callers said, I really hope he gets a chance to move up the ranks, and maybe someday at Iowa. I'm hoping maybe him and Dean Oliver, the Mason City guys, have a chance to maybe coach at the highest level. And it's great to see the CIML guys doing well. So I just very happy about that. And, because, he's too young to have health issues like that. So, like Jessel said, I'm very young myself, but it can happen anytime. So
absolutely.
Thank
Doug.
you, Corey.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate the time, sir. All right. Reminder to everybody, please share the show out on social media. Please become a premium subscriber. If you're enjoying the content, others will as well. A couple questions before we head out. Tony wants to know about our schedule. Says this will be his first full year of following college basketball. Content schedule once football season has officially ended. Well, first of all, Tony, the main feature of my coverage during basketball season is postgame shows. And, of course, there's about double the amount of postgame shows for basketball as there are for football. More than that, actually. Because 2 a week. The season's, 26 to 30 games total? More than that, I guess, when you count tournament play potentially. So we'll be here throughout the year, Tony. Postgame shows throughout the regular season with former Iowa coach Gary Close. And then, of course, content as we go. As far as you're going to get content every day. I mean, it's going to kind of be based upon what's happening, right? I mean, I can't guarantee you a preview for every game like we do for football, of course, but the more support we get for the show, the more content I can put out there. Obviously this time of year with football, busy, but we're not going to forsake basketball. So especially with the post game coverage. And if anybody has any requests for content, you're welcome to throw in those requests by comment or even in the live chat. We're going to be launching a merch line here in the next few days. So if you've been asking about merch, we've got that coming down the pipeline. And some other opportunities to support the show. I've mentioned if you have anybody in your realm, it could be a business partner, it could be somebody you work with, somebody that runs a business, small or big, have them reach out to us if they're interested in growing their business with an Iowa audience from the Eye of the Storm at Outlook.com. That's from the Eye of the Storm at Outlook.com. And let them know we've got post-game coverage with Coach Patterson for football, with Coach Close for basketball. We're here all season long. so many opportunities to grow the business, so many opportunities to sponsor. So from the Eye of the Storm at Outlook.com. That's from the Eye of the Storm at Outlook.com. This is a great question from Casey. Will you do a Wednesday night basketball hangout show? So that's all TBD, Casey. So Hawkeye Hangout's not going anywhere. Will it stay on the Wednesday evening 9 p.m. timeline once football's gone? We'll have to wait and see on that. It just will depend on what people are able to do. My schedule is, I don't expect my schedule to change that drastically as we head into basketball. But again, the support we get here really leads the charge, so to speak, as far as what we're able to do and what we will do. I know there was a comment from ZJ about Peyton Sandfort. I wanted to address this. Does Sandfort come off the bench when Ulis is back? I'm going to say no, ZJ. I'm going to say Perkins starts and Sandfort starts, but maybe Ulis does start. I don't know that. But I've been saying for a while, ZJ, if you've been watching the show for a while, I've been tooting this horn since last season. I've said for a while that I think Tony Perkins could be a 1 and could maybe potentially, if he can improve his ball handling enough, can add the 3-point shot, which he may have added. We was 2 of 2 tonight. He may be able to play at the next level at the 1. If that's the case, then Bowen and Ulis are going to be battling for a backup role. Not going to be dogmatic about that yet. Ulis hasn't even been, I mean, he's suspended for this game, so we'll see what happens. Kirk says, true or false, Iowa would be 6-2 now with Charlie Jones. Let's see. Well, they are, 4-4? They'd be at least 6-2, Kirk. Well, I shouldn't say that. I really don't know that because quarterback is the bigger thing. If Iowa had gone after, if they had added maybe any of the top 10 transfer portal quarterbacks out there, and you can say, well, they would have never had a chance at some of those guys. West Virginia added one. They're not very good. Washington added one. They're not very good. I mean, you go down the line. There's a lot of teams that added transfer. Indiana added one. I mean, they're not very good. So I don't buy that argument. I don't know, Kirk, as it relates to Charlie Jones. Would they be 6-2? Would he single-handedly have made the difference in those games? I can tell you, I think if they had played Drew Stevens against Iowa State, they may be at least 5-3 because I think he would have sent that game to overtime on a kick. And heck, I'd have taken him in overtime, kicking up against Iowa State's kicker who missed like 3 straight field goals the next week. So ifs, ands, and buts, I get it. But it's certainly reasonable to think that. CJ, does Iowa even have a 5 in their prospect portal? Doesn't even seem like they're getting them. Well, they're getting Owen Freeman next year, CJ. And is he a 7-footer? No, but he's 6'10". He'll probably be a 5 at the Big Ten level. May play some 4. But they've went after guys. They've got an offer to the Ellsworth guy up in Iowa Falls, who's a JUCO transfer. So let's just wait and see. But this year, they're going to have to play small ball unless Ogundele and Mulvey show us something we did not see tonight. DC Hawkeye, appreciate you being here. Anyone see the October 27th interview with Joe Toussaint? Interesting answers to Iowa questions. Did not see that, DC Hawkeye. I will check that out. I did record a segment with a guy on YouTube, Mountaineer Paul, who just launched a YouTube channel not that long ago. So if you are new to YouTube or you want to discover other content, check out my interview with Mountaineer Paul. We talk about Joe Toussaint. We talk about West Virginia and Iowa and conference expansion, a whole load of things. But Joe Toussaint, wishing him the best in Morgantown this year. And Tony says, Corey, I may have missed it, but have you done a record prediction or season outlook show or season outlook on Iowa basketball? Yes, I did. And let me see if I can pull this before I go off the air. By the way, folks, I was planning on being here like a half an hour, maybe an hour. And here we are over an hour and a half. Not going to guarantee this. Most of our post-game shows for men's basketball are going to try to keep those around an hour with Coach Close. But I'm happy to be here this evening. Let me pull the... That's not what I wanted to do. Oh, let's try something else here. Let me pull a couple of these videos here for you, Tony. One, you of course saw the show with Fran McCaffrey that was released yesterday. I'm going to go ahead and give you this. This is our podcast, our week 204 podcast that I'm putting in the chat right now. This is our show with Coach Gary Close. And then I will also give you the non-conference schedule preview that I released. And as we get closer to conference season, we'll release more on the conference season specifically. But these 2 videos that I'm throwing up in the chat, definitely check those out, because those are we do dive into the non-conference schedule quite deeply, if that's the right terminology to use. So thank you for the question, Tony, and thank you for being a supporter here and a premium subscriber. If anybody else wants to be a premium subscriber, you do so by clicking the little join button. If you don't see it, that means you're probably on an iPhone or an iPad. Maybe log in on a desktop. You'll be able to join remotely. Next to the channel name, click that little join button. You see that on the bottom ticker there next to From the Hawkeye of the Storm. You'll get some perks, and you're supporting the channel. Follow me on Twitter at From the Hawkeye on Twitter, From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Facebook. Like the Facebook page. Need to grow that page, and I've done a bad job with it. You can also donate by Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Those are huge. If you can make a donation, certainly appreciate super chats and the supers through YouTube. Let's remember, YouTube does take about a 30% cut of all those. So if you want to donate to me directly and you want this to go directly to the channel and support, use Venmo, Cash App, PayPal in the description below. Please hit that like button too, the thumbs up button. It does help. And I don't want to ignore DC Hawkeye adding in the, I think that's a super sticker. So it doesn't show up on my end, DC Hawkeye. Let me want to make sure I call this the right thing. Normally I wouldn't care, but we're talking about supers and YouTube and whatnot. I believe that's a super sticker or super chat. I don't know. I believe it's a super chat. DC Hawkeye, thank you so much, sir, for the donation. Very much appreciated. And appreciate you being here as always. All right, folks. Iowa, again, with the 118-72 exhibition victory over Truman State. They'll be opening their season next Monday against Bethune-Cookman. Postgame coverage all season long right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. I'll be live again on Wednesday on this channel for Hawkeye Hangout, which will talk football. We can even mix in some basketball talk. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central Time right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. And, of course, tomorrow, that's Tuesday afternoon, evening at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. It's myself and Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, over on the other channel that we take part in, Iowa Football at the Voice of College Football, live there at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. And by the way, every single show, every post-game show, every show with Mark, every one of our Hawkeye Hangout shows is available by means of our podcast. I'm going to throw it up on the bottom ticker there. Search From the Hawkeye of the Storm through Spotify, Apple, Google, and more. Any one of those, you can listen to this show, any of the shows recorded in podcast format. And DC Hawkeye, no worries. You do you. You don't appreciate the donations, however they come in, super chat or by PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo. All right, folks, we'll talk to you tomorrow over on the Iowa channel, 4:30 p.m. Central Time with Mark Rogers, and I'll be back on Wednesday right here for Hawkeye Hangout. Thanks, folks.